My name is Jay Bennett. I'm VP and Creative Director of a company called SmokeBomb Entertainment out of Toronto. Our parent company is Shaftesbury Films. And at SmokeBomb, we do two things. One is we create our own original digital series for new platforms, app series, digital series with monetizable content around those. But the other thing is we create companion series for Shaftesbury's, companion projects for Shaftesbury series. So I'm up here today with Coons, who has done many things on the series Murdoch Mysteries. You've been a showrunner, a writer, a director. You probably cut some of those at some point. And Murdoch Mysteries. And Michelle Ricci, who now writes, has written on season 5 and the soon to come out season 6 on CBC. And what we do with SmokeBomb is we take these TV properties that Shaftesbury makes and we make projects around them to for secondary platforms, for digital platforms, to appeal to the existing audience, and we also are trying to do them in a way that can help grow that audience and reach an audience with a different take on the content and in a different way than necessarily the TV series would attract. So with that, we're today going to take you through a couple of case studies for companion series we did for season 4 of Murdoch Mysteries and season 5 of Murdoch Mysteries. And I think to start, maybe if I could ask Cal here to introduce just sort of what is the show of Murdoch. I also have a trailer if you'd like to play that before or after you do that intro.
Before.
Before. Okay, great. Oh, and maybe you could just introduce yourself a bit in doing that as well.
Yeah, I'm a writer, director, primarily producer when provoked. So I had many years ago, around 2000, Shaftesbury was making a lot of mystery series, and at the time we were doing them by wheels of movies, and of course. I was looking for another project, and I came across Murdoch Mysteries when it was a book, and took the books to Shaftesbury, and we went down a road where they became TV movies, and then we spun them off eventually into the series. Went through a series of we revised essentially the books. The books were fairly straightforward period pieces, and what happened was the industry just kept changing. We started as could this be a wheel of movies for Bravo, and we developed them like that. My feeling was that the books needed to be, this guy needed to be somehow a good detective, but
and just for people who don't know, sort of what is Murdoch Mysteries in a nutshell?
Well, it's set in the late 1890s, and its stories centers around a detective who uses advanced sort of forensics far ahead of his time, and he uses them to solve crimes while trying to reconcile himself with his Catholic upbringing and the fact that he can't really come to love the girl.
So sort of like Sherlock Holmes meets CSI in the turn of the century, in a way, yeah.
Yeah, I would say that's pretty much what the piece of paper usually says.
Should we take a look at the trailer? So this is a trailer for season 5. It's now actually going into season 6. For 5 years, it's been on City TV. And season 6 now it's moving over to CBC, and I think season 5 has just started airing last week, I think, 2 weeks ago, and season 6 will start right early 2013.
So why are you here?
Seeking my fortune.
I made a mistake. I compromised what I believed in. It's our mistakes that define us.
Can't turn your back on policing, can you?
Detective Murdoch. I see you've returned.
Detective Murdoch, there may not be a keener mind in any police station anywhere.
So what have you discovered?
A man has already been murdered, and I believe his killer is in this room.
Face crowds like this in every city.
You're walking on very thin ice here, Murdoch.
Allow me to introduce you to my latest invention.
We must accept the decisions we've made, William. It's the only way to move on with our lives.
no help!
Arm yourself.
Whoever's playing this game with you, the attack is psychological.
Where is sir?
Great. So that is a little flavor of what Murdoch Mysteries looks like as a television series. And for the first couple years of Murdoch Mysteries, we were doing web-based experiences for the show. High-end Flash-based websites, and within that, components, small little game mechanics that the audience could play with. What we started to do at SmokeBomb is really ask, with our partner also at City TV at the time, is this actually what's best for this audience? And what began with the first digital series that I produced and we made with Coons, who worked as our story editor and director on it, and Patrick Tarr wrote. And I should say this now, actually, a big thing what we do is we do work with the people who do work on the series. So Michelle, who wrote the next one we did for season 5, she came right from the writer's room on the season that year, and Cal as well, and Patrick as well. So I think what we set out to do is we went and said, what does the audience actually want, especially with something that's sort of skewing 30 to 55. It's really our belief at SmokeBomb that an audience like that, really what they want is more of the show. They want the story world they love and the characters they love. But if you just go and make another episode of the series, well, why am I going to go online and watch that? And that actually is the hardest challenge we always face, is moving the audience from television online. So you have to give them something that really excites them, really shows them something that is, I recognize this, but it's totally different. You take it and you flip it on its head. So working with, at that time, working with Cal, the mandate sort of came in to come up with a 13-part digital series that we could weave through the television series. So actually put our storyline as a C storyline into the television show, and that would allow us to again promote off it and push that audience right after the show ends onto online. And I do have the clip, but I'm sort of going to ask, maybe we can sort of take our minds back to the challenge of the time. It was asked, what can we do? And I think the first impulse was to go and tell a story about Murdoch himself, the main character. But we then sort of, and certainly led by you and some of your thoughts, it was sort of like, well, maybe that's not the way to do it. Is that a good launching part to sort of say, when you sort of came in and said, I think there's another way to do this. What if we flip it?
Right. Well, I mean, for me, by that point, there was tons of Murdoch. And it's a two-way street, right? As a producer, you're sitting there saying, how do we get people to go to the website? But how do you get the website to come back to the TV series? How do we use this to find an audience that's not there? And clearly, when it's skewing 33 to 55. Or 30 to 55, that audience is not coming to the TV show. So we said, how can we actually, play with these characters, play with this thing, and take the show to somewhere we can never possibly achieve, and bring it back that way. I think at the time the thinking too was that that we had a great character in this Crabtree character who's Murdoch's sidekick, but Johnny Harris, who's a comedian, was really talented, and we thought, well, is there a way we can use him and make a more play up the fantastical elements of the show, which could skew it down a little bit. And I would go back, actually, way back, Jay, to when, after we'd made the movies, which were fairly straightforward period films. And then we went to, and the TV movie business died. City came to us and said, well, listen, we want a TV series, but the truth of it is if you put mystery on the end of pretty much anything, you're going to get a pretty loyal audience come out for it, and if you don't bungle it, those people will come and they'll watch. But they're not the audience that they really wanted for their sales department, particularly. It's skewed a little old, and is there any way we can make this younger? That was the same cry then. So, you know, we tried to take it, you know, in baby steps to a kind of a more of a steampunkish kind of place, which was something I was personally interested in, and you know, and I kept that thinking alive. And you know, it's a fairly conservative world out there sometimes, and we could get elements of it into it, and sometimes more, sometimes less. So when it came time to do this, I stuck by my same. I only have one thought apparently. It's like maybe let's make it a steampunky thing, you know. So could we combine this, you know, something outlandish that we haven't done? We'd always thought about, you know, things that were extremely you know, like that we find interesting now looking back, that took place at that period. So there was an Egyptian craze that was on, and we thought that was going to be fun. Could we make it spookier, and could we make it more of a, you know, and then we had to do 13 of them, so could it be serialized? Could we make it feel like and then this idea, well, you know, maybe we could do it like a Penny Dread or something, you know, a kind of like a rollicking sort of ridiculous series of adventures, and almost get an Indiana Jones feel to it, that serialization, Star Wars-y kind of like a cliffhanger thing. And that was what was driving my end of it.
Yeah. And so I think with that, so now you sort of know what we're talking about. I'll show you the trailer here for it. I think it's also important to say, as I always say with these things, this digital content would not be possible. We're very lucky in Canada, very lucky in Ontario. We have the Bell New Media Fund, which has been a fantastic supporter of SmokeBomb's work and help us make these things possible. The Canadian Media Fund, the Ontario Media Digital Tax Credits, and certainly also our broadcast partners, City TV, UK TV, and now CBC have really embraced what we're doing, and without them, we could not make this type of work. So this is the trailer for Curse of the Lost Pharaohs.
My name is George Crabtree. By day, I help to solve crimes with my companions of the Toronto Police. By night, my inspiration pulls me into extraordinary places.
7 prominent citizens dying of natural causes all on the same night. It's too far beyond credulity.
It skulks somewhere waiting to strike.
Sekhmet is coming. Step inside my imagination as my first novel unfolds.
Yeah, so as you can see, we took the show, and we took the characters in the story world, and in this case, our twist was to make it larger than life. And also, which was sort of a challenge for us, we shot this all, this was a 1-day shoot. So, was that a 2-day shoot for Curse? Okay, we had a 2-day shoot, sorry, to shoot about 30 minutes of content. But the problem was, how do you go and do, we did battles at sea, we did legions of people in front of pyramids, to do these massive scenes. And so working with an illustrator named Francis Manipul, who did he does a lot of DC Comics work right now. We used animation, and essentially animation became our big scenes, and then we did the dialogue with the series cast on the series sets, and we sort of freed them in doing that, and allowed them to play a bit more, and ended up with the product we have here. So I want to bring in you. So, I mean, Michelle, although we're going to get to the Murdoch effect here in a moment, maybe you can talk in either way. What is it like trying to take the TV story world, be true to it, but also blow it up at the same time and play with it?
Well, I think we're actually really lucky. On the show, we have more of an opportunity to do that than you do with a contemporary setting, because we are, you know, based in Victorian times. There are a lot of elements to that time period and that world that lend itself to going over the top or into a fantastical setting or something a little steampunky or something that you wouldn't expect. So we have, I think, almost an embarrassment of riches in that way, you know, and even just when you're brainstorming for ideas and, you know, or Cal has brought a lot of ideas to the table that are just good. So we're really lucky in that respect.
How does it work? And I'm going to show a video in a sec showing how we integrated with television for this. We didn't for Murdoch Effect, but in the same way, how does a series story room, and I will admit, I mean, part of this is when you do go to a series showrunner who already has the challenge of making the TV show and say, hey, we also want to make a digital show and change these things and do there is initially an apprehension, but I think certainly with both these products, and even more so in season 5 and what we're doing in season 6, I think people now understand that we're not there to break, we're there to support. But what is sort of the challenge of is there an apprehension still, do you find, in this world, or is there benefits to being in the room, or is there negatives?
Insofar as the integration is concerned, it is still really difficult, especially on a show like this that is a procedural. It's a closed-ended mystery every week. We don't have a real through line other than personal relationships. So when you're introducing any element into an episode, it's unusual and our audience doesn't expect for any particular element not to be resolved in that same episode. So that's something that we definitely struggle with as a story room. And you know, I think we're getting a little better at it, and hopefully next season we'll be able to develop a strategy a little earlier on that we can weave through a little more successfully than we have done in the past. Because I think that will make the experience all the richer. And also because we only are doing 6 parts now instead of the 13 that you did with Curse, then that's even a shorter window in which to weave any kind of through line. And we happen to have been incredibly efficient with season 6, and by the time we went into production, we actually had 7 scripts fully written. So when we got to talking about the web series, the main series was so far along that it was even harder to go back and try to weave some things in. So we ended up just doing it visually, which I think will work. Yeah. But it would be nice, you know, next season, maybe going forward, to develop a better strategy and have something that's a little more cohesive.
I think that's a good, I'm going to show another one here just so people sort of understand. A big part of this, and I remember being, you know, what is the greatest challenge with these things? The greatest challenge is actually promotion, and it's allowing an audience to know this exists. And it's moving that audience. And we can do a lot of things ourselves. We certainly create the content and do things with social media, but that really falls to the broadcaster. This is what City TV ran as their on-air promo. So this would run just around the television series.
Be sure to catch the season premiere of Murdoch Mysteries. As an added online bonus, go to citytv.com for 13 exclusive webisodes of The Curse of the Lost Pharaohs immediately following the premiere. Murdoch Mysteries premieres 8 Tuesday on City TV.
Which was great of them, and they were great partners. I mean, I think I know they learned as well. I'm a big person for low barriers of entry, and by that I mean for mainstream audiences, making it really simple for them to get at content. Unfortunately, with this one, when it first launched, I counted it took 7 clicks to get to our web series. So they gave us great promotion and they gave us a spot on their website, but it was never as simple as I could just go to citytv.com, click on Curse, and launch. I would click, that would take me to another page. Then I'd have to look find it. But for season 5, they really improved on that and learned from that. The next thing I wanted to sort of, I want to show that one. Let's talk about this. So Cal, sort of me, you, anyone, and by the way, if anyone has any questions as we go, please feel free to throw up your hands and we can answer. I was going to say, us thinking back, sort of what were the challenges in producing this? What were the freedoms in it? And I think there was certainly, I know even from the crew and the actors, making projects like this where it's 2 days instead of 4 or 5 months, it's quite a liberating experience. And maybe what were some of the lessons we learned along the way? I mean, I think certainly the challenges beyond how, like telling a story in 3 minutes. Maybe you want to talk about that.
Well, yeah, I mean, there was really only one way to tell the story. But, it was one story, so it had to, it had to become serialized. It had to be, we had to find a mechanism to ensure that you came back for the next one. So it played into the whole idea of chapters of a book that we did that with. I think though that that the biggest thing about it was that people hadn't done it before, and so on many levels. There was a lot of concerns, like you walk a very fine line because you have to protect your actors, right? You have to protect your franchise. So Murdoch still needed to be Murdoch, even if he was a distorted version of himself. And the actors were very good about it, because after 4 years, of course, they're bored of playing themselves. It's like, oh, geez, I'm going to do this again, or I don't like that dress, or whatever. The repetition had set in, so they were gung ho for it. But from sales and distribution and things like that, was it going to undermine the actual show, especially if you're going to make something that kind of plays nudge with the character you fought 4 years to build up, and so winning that confidence that we were going to be able to walk that line was good. The second thing was how to do it. Like, I mean, so we had to, because you do things at a production level for broadcast. It's quite a different thing to do the web world broadcast. So we had to figure out ways to reuse our sets with a minimal crew, with an extra day, and win them over, because they're going like, we're going to shoot 19 pages a day, or 20 pages a day, and it's like, yeah, we can shoot that, and it's like, no, we can't. And so funny enough, we had the first day we went out to shoot, we had to get all new ADs. People came in. The camera department was into it, and they came, and the rest of the crew was very loath to do it, and so we did it, and we proved that we could do it, and we actually did it in a pretty reasonable amount of time. So, and everybody had a great time doing it. And then the next week, then people were mad because we tried to bring back the crew that had done the webisodes, and they're going like, why'd they ask them? Like, how come this person's doing continuity and I'm not? You never asked me. And it's like, of course we asked you. Those were the last week, so it's a strange thing, because you work 5 days. The reality from a producing point of view is you work 5 days on Murdoch, and then the 6th day you're working on Murdoch the webisode. World changes. It goes poof like this. So trying to find then a production model like that would feel like you didn't step off the planet. So we changed the look of the show too. I said, I can't shoot this like we would typically shoot the show. So I put the camera on the Steadicam for most of the show, which we'd shoot it. I covered it really wide lenses, and it was just a different look, but a faster look.
We also, I remember, I mean, you have to be, when you move at this pace and when you're trying to do these things, it's also literally making creative choices like in that moment, and shift this scene here and give that line, cut this, we can do without that.
Yeah.
It really is back to sort of guerrilla filmmaking, but I say this for all the digital content we make, it's very important. You can't, especially in the digital landscape, nowadays, when there's, I think, 72 hours of footage uploaded to YouTube every minute, you can't be good. You have to be great with the content you make. It has to feel like it can be on television. It has to feel like it can fit there. With Curse of the Lost Pharaohs, these episodes, actually, they went out on UK TV as interstitials on TV, and they actually use them as television content. And we're pulling over 100,000 viewers per 3 minutes. And so that's certainly also that challenge of we're doing it so much faster, so much looser, but we never want to compromise on the quality of the performance. And that takes everybody. That takes the person down to the script supervisor. That takes the actors. That takes directors. Everybody.
But I think the other thing that goes with it is that it's kind of like a reward for the audience, right? Like I know we had big debates about how far can we push the creative before the audience goes, this isn't the show what I like, and you're insulting us. And I had somebody very close to the production afterwards just livid with me about you made Ogden look like a whore, and
Wait until we show them season 5.
Yeah,
hang on for this.
and of course she just loved not being stuck in the typical bustier, or something. But the idea was they felt that we were insulting the audience, that the audience wouldn't go with us, that we were actually betraying the audience. And my belief was, and I think that you have to go with the idea, is your audience, if it likes it, would love to have a version, an alternative. So I mean, it's like sort of, if you believe in it enough, and then it's a matter of finding how you can bend it to the point where you don't betray it. I feel like that
sounds
crimes
like
and misdemeanors
what
broke out there for a second. If it breaks, it's not, But that, I think, is the biggest challenge, right? So you're going like, how do we give something different from the same, and how to, from my selfish point of view, the best thing would have been somehow. Lightning struck, and we ended up with this a viral thing. It could never go viral because in the end, it was chose to be geo-blocked. So we, Canada was Canada, and it was sold on a kind of market by market basis, which, that's a corporate decision that our broadcast partners felt that they should go that way. My personal take was, I didn't think we were gonna. I thought we had our audience, and what we were asking was to find a new audience and drive them back to the television series, because that was, that's what we were looking for. And I still don't know if that what would have happened if we were allowed to actually finish that experiment. But being able to, anyway, it didn't. Our audience liked it. It stuck with the show. They didn't leave the show, and we actually probably did, pick up audience coming back the other way.
I certainly know through my peer groups it resonated in a new way. I want to show another video, and so this one sort of goes. What also made this really unique is the fact that we were able to integrate it into the TV series. So this will take you through all the reference points we were able to add.
Bird watchers?
What on earth are you doing, George?
Doing? Oh, nothing, sir. I've often thought I should write some of these things down,
Well,
It's like the 6th plague of Egypt.
I beg your pardon?
Yes, sir, the 6th plague of Egypt. I've been researching it for my murder mystery. Sir, I love secret compartments. They're so mysterious. I'm thinking about putting a secret compartment in my book. I mean, in the story, not a secret compartment in the actual... Sir, a secret compartment in the actual book. Think about it. You could hide a smaller book. Stake out?
It's a phrase I learned in the Penny Dreadfuls. It means to watch.
Oh, I know.
What are you doing?
Well, you've just given me an idea now for my adventure novel.
Adventure novel?
And then just as the chapter concludes, our heroes realize they must rush back to save the Queen from Sekhmet's evil biocannon.
This murder mystery of yours is starting to sound peculiar, George.
Oh, thank you, sir.
You better not be writing that murder mystery on my time, Crabtree.
Sir, I'm not. In fact, right now, I'm not writing anything. I've almost finished what is sure to be a thrilling climax, but now I can't think of an ending.
I lie awake at night dreaming about the ending of your bloody story.
Perhaps what you need is a surprise dramatic element, George. A twist, as it were.
What's it about?
Oh, it's just a little project I've been fooling with. There's some murder, some adventure. Queen Victoria ends up in a bank vault. Towards the end, I'm not explaining it very well. It doesn't mean anything, Higgins. It's nonsense.
Oh, like your novel?
I'll have you know that I've finished Curse of the Lost Pharaohs, and it's so good I'm sure to write another. And when I do, there will be a character based on you, and he will be the village idiot.
That's Johnny Harris, who plays George Crabtree, who does an excellent job on the show. And maybe we can sort of talk. I mean, again, I think this comes back to the challenge of putting something into a series that if you never go online, it's not going to seem out of place. But if you do, it gives you a little something extra.
Yeah, and what we actually did after this in season 5, I wasn't a part of the story room in season 4, but in season 5, because this had been a runner through all of season 4, we actually formed an episode around it, where we had an Egyptian exhibit come to Toronto, and Crabtree sold his published book. And that was kind of the B runner through the episode, which I think worked out really well, because not only then did you have a reference to the book in the next season? So anyone who hadn't seen Curse of the Lost Pharaohs could go back and watch it again, or would have been awakened to its existence. Anyone who came into season 5 as a new audience member, which will happen now that season 5 is playing again on CBC. But also that tied up that storyline for any of the audience who didn't go online or has no interest going online or doesn't have a computer, that kind of thing.
I mean, that's the thing. That's the big thing the broadcasters are, where they believe that's how they want to drive their audience. And so by doing those points, they want to push right off of that. The idea was lower thirds. So in the perfect world, that's what would have occurred anytime those reference points started. Then a lower third would pop up on screen, reminding you that there is a series playing online. For a new project we're working on right now with CTV for a different series, we're at that point. We're actually going to get lower thirds. So the world is looking good.
How hard did you have to fight for that?
Well, not thankfully, not that hard. I mean, again, I think beyond even 4 years ago, 5 years ago, when as a digital company you'd walk into the boardrooms of television, of broadcasters, just like, yeah. Well, no, you'd be the troublemakers, and you wanted to use their time, and they were so busy selling banner ads. Don't distract them from that. But I think now more than the banner ad advertising people are here. I certainly it is very clear to me that the trend is now. We're moving into a world where broadcasters truly are recognizing the value of digital content. I think that goes not only for the way that their audiences' habits are and the way audiences consume content. This was also available on City TV's app, so through their mobile service. But I also think there's a value. Now, the challenge remains is advertisers, unless they get as many impressions as they get from putting up a banner ad, they're still a bit wary to go and put money to that. We have had some success, but I think I even saw an article in Playback today. Advertisers in Canada are asking for more stats on how digital content is consumed, and I think if that information, if that information can start getting to them, and B, if we can get in with the broadcasters' salespeople, and that remains actually the biggest barrier. And not that those guys aren't doing a fantastic job, but they're spending every day, every hour trying to place banner ads and pre-rolls. And we come in with outside of the box stuff saying, let's start selling ad spots in this. Let's take our characters and put them into the ads. Let's do vertical integration of advertising from TV to commercial to online. And that's still a bit of a head scratcher for them because it's so outside of the box, because it's not just something they can duplicate. But again, I feel as though that is the evolution is upon us. I want to show one final video in relation to Curse that I think will sort of give the overview of the whole project. And then I think we'll talk about lessons learned and how that moved us into what happened in season 5. Let me play this first. So this is a slightly longer video, but this gives you the full overview and probably encapsulates better what...
Jay,
yeah.
I was just going to say,
yeah.
We can't, of course, see you guys at all. So if you do have questions, just
yell?
Just yell, yeah.
So this... There's a question. Oh, we do have a question. He has the microphone.
Oh. Can't see anything.
My name is George Crabtree. By day, I help to solve crimes with my companions of the Toronto Police. By night, my inspiration pulls me into extraordinary places, weaving tales of mystery and heart-pounding adventure. Please join me and step inside my imagination as my first novel unfolds. Oh, for the love of...
As transmedia companion content for Season 4 of the award-winning television series Murdoch Mysteries, SmokeBomb Entertainment created the 13-part digital series The Curse of the Lost Pharaohs. The goal of the project was to create a companion experience to support the television series that would appeal to the existing fan base while providing a gateway into the series for a new and younger audience. Produced by Shaftesbury Films for City TV in Canada, the television series follows Detective William Murdoch and his companions as they investigate crimes at the turn of the century. Using forensic techniques considered to be radical for the time period, Murdoch is able to solve the most complicated of cases. For Curse of the Lost Pharaohs, SmokeBomb worked with the series producers to weave an ongoing sea storyline through the entire 4th season of the television show that follows Murdoch's bumbling sidekick, Constable George Crabtree.
Oh, no. I'm not wearing a dress. Not again, anyway.
As inspired by Arthur Conan Doyle's Sherlock Holmes, he decides to pen his first adventure novel. On television, Crabtree begins taking inspiration from the cases he and Inspector Murdoch are investigating.
Like the 6th plague of Egypt.
I beg your pardon?
Yes, sir, the 6th plague of Egypt. I've been researching it for my murder mystery.
In 8 of the 13 episodes, viewers watch as the Crabtree storyline progresses. Online each week, immediately following the television broadcast, viewers were then able to watch the next chapter of Crabtree's book, The Curse of the Lost Pharaohs, come to life. Through Crabtree's imagination, Murdoch and the rest of the core team at Police Station 4 are transformed into larger-than-life versions of themselves. Detective Murdoch becomes a man possessed with even greater brilliance and cunning skills.
You'll have to decide, George, between death and a broken watch.
The reserved and charming forensic pathologist, Dr. Julia Ogden, becomes a lethal seductress.
But as for my would-be robber, he's soon to awaken as a guest of the constabulary.
Well done.
But enough about me.
The gruff Inspector Thomas Brackenreed becomes the burly British brawler who settles scores with his fists.
I just knocked out the Cabbagetown Colossus when I had a strange premonition that you two gentlemen needed my assistance.
And the bumbling Crabtree, who's always been Murdoch's subordinate, becomes his intellectual equal and for the first time gets the girl. Crabtree's observations from the world of the television series are woven into the digital series so that viewers watching both iterations can make the connections, creating a richer viewing experience. For example, on TV, we see Crabtree stumped about what to do with his villain in order to move the story forward. Murdoch offers a solution to this writer's dilemma.
Perhaps what you need is a surprise dramatic element, George. A twist, as it were.
Which then appears in that week's digital episode.
Oh, God. You're just a low-life criminal like I thought you were.
Father?
Blending live-action content and stunning motion comic animation drawn by well-known DC Comics illustrator Francis Manapul, The Curse of the Lost Pharaohs efficiently tells its story on a grand scale, larger and more sweeping than any television episode of Murdoch Mysteries, while remaining true to the show's core story world and characters. Curse of the Lost Pharaohs opens with the team investigating the mysterious death of 7 prominent citizens and their subsequent discovery that this is in fact the work of a marauding mummy. In turn, the clues lead them to uncover a diabolical plot to assassinate visiting Queen Victoria using an advanced biological weapon. Racing against the clock, the team sails to Niagara Falls and directly into a trap laid by the evil mastermind Sept. With all hope lost, it's up to Crabtree to save his companions and together stop Sekhmet and his evil henchmen before their plot can be unleashed. Promoted through the on-air storyline, commercial spots that ran in and around the episodes, and a grassroots social media marketing campaign that targeted influential bloggers across Canada with exclusive access to actors and contesting, Curse was able to achieve extremely strong numbers for City TV and in turn exposed the series to a new fan base. The digital series was designed to move freely between platforms and will be seen in broadcast on UK TV this winter, where it'll be used as interstitials to build anticipation for the rebroadcast of the Season 4 television series. Completing the transmedia integration, an episode of Season 5 picks up from where The Curse of the Lost Pharaohs left off. Crabtree, now a successful published author, is called to the fore to use his newfound knowledge of Egyptian curses as the group works to unravel another deadly mystery in an exciting television episode of Murdoch Mysteries.
What on earth is going on? What do they want?
You?
Me?
Seems your book and the supposed curse have turned you into a bit of a celebrity, George.
In the end, the project was so successful for City TV that they've commissioned a second digital series as companion content for the 5th season of Murdoch Mysteries. And a second major Canadian broadcaster has enlisted SmokeBomb to utilize the same transmedia model for one of their returning series.
So that's the overview of the project. And with that, that was our submission to the International Emmys, and we were lucky enough to get a nomination for that project last year. So, anything else from you guys that you think would be of relevance in relation to Curse before we move to season 5? Any questions at this stage? Yes.
What sort of provisions are there or were there for viewing the short-form online content on a larger screen, such as through video on demand, through Shaw, or through iTunes on an Apple TV, or through a Boxy Box or something like that? Because people of a certain age don't enjoy watching video online. And you got your big screen TV at home. You want to watch this beautiful content on the big screen TV, not hunched over your laptop. And I know it seems like you're partway there with having the stuff available on an app on your tablet, for example, and being able to push that to your TV if you've got the right device. But is there any easy way to watch this on the big screen?
Well, there are some and I agree. I mean, I think part of it just comes down to budget. And so with this, we squeeze every last dollar out of it. To put it onto television or onto VOD, we'd have to buy the project out with the actors and the writers, and that adds a significant chunk. Now, with Curse, we were with the sale to UK TV, that covered that buyout, and that's what allowed it to go to television. It's then sort of to the distributors at that point to move it elsewhere. I know, again, though, we learn with every one of these, and the new material we're doing for Listener with CTV for next season, that they're planning to move to set-top box, and with the Murdoch Effect, which we're about to talk about for season 5, that also went out on TV in UK TV. But yes, I agree. I think part of it is also the broadcaster, right, and their interest in moving that audience to the platforms that where they're trying to drive those eyeballs. And I think we're getting there. I mean, I agree. I think technology is also going to help. I think that's a great example of now if you can pull that up on your iPad, you can essentially throw it onto a TV screen. So season 4, that was great, and everyone was very happy with that. And then they said, okay, give us another one. And the challenge for us became, okay, well, if we went that big for season 4, where do you go next? I sort of don't want to give it. I sort of just want to play the trailer and yeah. So we'll talk about how we got to this after. But this is what we in wanting to deliver something new. This is what we did for season 5.
Millionaire industrialist Rupert Crandall's daughter, Emily, had been kidnapped. George and I were set to drop the ransom. This wasn't the Toronto I knew. Buildings as tall as the clouds, automobiles and people crowding the streets. Everything was upside down. George?
Where do they find these pencil-neck geeks?
Julia?
Shut up, you blow my cover.
Henry?
Well.
Is that?
Brackenreed. He's going down this time. I don't care if it costs me my badge.
How could this be? Where was I? In a dream?
Crandall's refusing to do over because we screwed up the drop. We gotta find his daughter ASAP.
What's ASAP?
Brackenreed is so guilty, I can smell it. Where's the girl?
Got nothing on me.
Julia, would you believe me if I told you that I'm not from here?
I'll tell the Crandall girl. You two play nice.
Julia, you gotta get out of there now. Jules!
Hitting me isn't going to save her. Shall I crank the engine?
No, you shall shut up.
1, 2, 3! incredible. This camera uses no mirrors at all.
Oh my God, just make some more coffee, will you?
Full HD. Oh.
Yeah, so that was us going bigger and different. Here, I'll just throw that sucker up. It is our homage to our friends at The Usual Suspects. So why don't we start with you, Michelle? And the idea came in, and I sort of I put a lot of credit to Cal for this one, because I know we were just talking about what would be cool to do with Murdoch, and you're like, well, it'd be cool to take him to the future. And so I remember that conversation back when we were doing season 4, and it came to the next one. It was like, well, let's take him to the future. What does that look like? So as a writer on the series, I guess we come back to what are the challenges, what are the possibilities with not only taking our story world, but everyone outside of Murdoch becoming new people, but still being true again, being honest to what the series was.
Yeah, I think what we were trying to do was make sure that Murdoch stayed Murdoch, because like Cal said, you need to make sure that you're protecting your characters and you're protecting the show. And everyone else, I think, took a part of the character that already exists on the main series and just went to the extreme. So Crabtree went from being, the sidekick to being Dirty Harry. Brackenreed went from being, a little bit of a rough and tumble station house inspector to being a crime lord. And it was just, again, playing with those little tiny pieces of their character that may have popped up once or twice and just turning them into full-blown reality. And of course, the fun was watching Murdoch as Murdoch, not only experiencing this, incredible world of his dreams, because he is a very forward-thinking, futuristic kind of man in his own way, but then also having to deal with these people who are part of his life, but who were not as they seemed. So I think it was just, playing with the world and bringing it into our world and giving them a place to sort of run and be free.
And they certainly did. Everyone, again, Johnny loved the opportunity. Helen, as we said, we dressed her as a prostitute. And
she was a vice cop undercover.
She was a vice cop undercover. Yes, we were sure to clarify that. And this one, again, this went out on City TV. I think the big change from the year before, and I think which we appreciated, is they said longer episodes, but less. And the reason less is that was sort of dictated by budget, but I think they agreed and we agreed that we got up to about 4.5 minutes an episode for these, and even that addition of 1.5 minutes allowed us to breathe a bit more and tell a bit more story. That's another interesting question. Again, I sort of come back to you write a television script and you sort of get 43 some odd pages to do that, and then you have to go and you have to tell that story in 4 pages.
Yeah, our television scripts are more like 54 pages.
Yeah.
So, it's not so much that it's a shorter length. It's more the fact that you have to come up with a compelling act end every 5 pages. That's hard. And then also keeping them all the same length is also tricky, because when you're on, a regular show or writing whatever you're writing, you have a little bit of freedom. You can write something that's 8 pages, before you get to the end of the act, or even 12 pages. So you have some room to get to where you need to go. And if it ends up being shorter because you don't need that much room, you don't have to take it. But here, trying to keep it all uniform was really tricky. And making sure that they were all, you're always moving the story forward. You're still having all the fun and the jokes and the gags, but that you're not just blathering on for the sake of making those 5 pages, or you're not cutting off something important to not go over 5 pages.
Yeah. No, you've done it very well. It is always a challenge. With Murdoch 5, this went out. City TV tried a slightly different release method for this season. Facebook was their main portal as opposed to City TV. And instead of doing as a weekly release, they just wanted to turbocharge this sucker right off the top, and they released it in tandem with the first week of the series premiere. It got a lot of interest. There were sort of petitions starting to turn it into a series itself, and I certainly commend the writing and the team and the actors that worked on that, because I think we were really able to create something special and unique. The series actually does allow Murdoch, he jumps back and forth between time. So actually what's happening is he is trying to solve a case in 2 time periods, and he sort of realizes at this point that they're both connected, and if he can solve them in one time, then he can solve them in both. Cal, maybe where that idea came from, maybe it would just be interesting to sort of, where was the genesis in the beginning of why you thought it might be interesting to see this character in modern times, and how do you think did that sort of live up to what you thought?
Well, Murdoch, you know, when we started, and you know, doing period on a very modest budget. Murdoch's probably the lowest budgeted hour in Canada, and yet we're doing this period stuff. You know, our first production designer, she said, you know, why don't we just take part of it into the future at like the Murdoch Museum or something, you know, and so just kind of always, you know, trying to find some way to, you know, make it more cost effective, and so we always had in the back of our minds, and we were going to do a 3D Murdoch. You know, you get to do great things with Murdoch. So it's like he was going to be Murdoch in 3D. So I tried again to do to take him to the future, and we wrote a script about that, and Will-o'-the-Wisps and all kinds of cool things. And one of the other things that Shaftesbury had, of course, it has the listener sets as well. So we had a standing set if we could figure out how to do that. So you know, so then when it came time to do this, 2 things happened. One was it was big enough and it would be cool, and we talked about it. And the second thing was I was just watching a lot of 70s movies and TV series, and you know, we thought it'd be pretty interesting if you could shoot it like a kind of a 70s, you know, Serpico or, you know, or whatever, if we had gotten the full on, you know, what we you know, if we had boundless art direction and time, you know, everything would have been, you know, even crazier. So it seemed like a natural way to go, and we certainly had tried to do it, and it actually turned out really, really good. You know, like the art direction, the performances, big scope, you know, which is good about, you know, going down from 13, you know, down to you know, 6. It also gives you, you know, you have to be very ruthless about plot. Like, plot cannot meander, but you can't kill the character, right? So it's like really, it's like really important to focus those small films. Each one's kind of like a little mini movie, and to, you know, like the great thing about it is once you see, you know, this character, you know, can face anything modern, you know, it just says everything, and then so it's very rich for doing that, and I think that the audience has always wondered what, you know, I think frankly what would happen if he was around today, and so for them, of course, it's a treat, right? Because you go, you know, wow, you know, you take the smartest guy in the world and you put him into a world where everybody has a computer. It's like, you know, he's not the smartest guy in the room necessarily. You know, it's you know, became kind of a natural extension.
And I think another thing there was a big thing in the series that has gone on since day one is the relationship between William Murdoch and Dr. Julia Ogden. And I mean, maybe Michelle, you can speak. There was something both for fans and I think liberating by pulling it into the modern world, even though that was only sort of 30 minutes of content, we were able to remove the social conventions of 100 years ago and sort of allow, restoke those fires in a new way for fans of the series, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because on the show they're very reserved, and you know, it's taken them 5 seasons just to hold hands. That's not entirely true, but
4 seasons.
4 seasons to touch pinkies. And in season 5, they split up. You know, she marries somebody else, and they're not together anymore, and it looks like all hope is lost. So for the entire season on TV, they are not together. There is no possibility of them being together. And then we bring it into the web series where now they're meeting on sort of neutral turf, as it was, and Murdoch has a second chance at the woman of his dreams, who is, you know, for some reason very attracted to him, and they kind of go with it, and that becomes a little dilemma for him. Does he stay in the future, you know, with a new shot at the woman of his dreams, or does he go back to the past where he really belongs? And I think that worked out really well. In fact, a lot of the fans were debating where this would have happened in the series. Did it go between episode 5 and 6, or did it go, you know, based on what was going on with Murdoch and Ogden in the main series? So it was kind of funny.
Yeah. Okay, any questions in regards to season 5 before we start talking about season 6? Okay, so that is season 5 and season 6, season 4 and season 5. For season 6, the series has moved to CBC, and we are doing a digital property for them this year. Some things changed with this approach, and I think the biggest one is in the CBC's eyes, which is true. Murdoch is now being exposed to a whole new audience. And I think part of the freedoms, as we sort of touched on before, is with a couple years of that show in the bag, once we got to it and sort of started playing with it, people knew who these characters were. And although we were still faced with those challenges of walking that line and not being untrue to the show, that gave us a freedom. And CBC is really looking at their season 6 as the first season in a way, because a lot of fans will be coming to this. And which I will say at the end, which is the little tease, I think we all knew where we wanted to go next with this sort of series of digital projects. But CBC said, no, we don't really feel comfortable with that yet. We need to sort of baby step our audience in here. So we want something more in line with the series. It was also really their interest to move away from a straight play digital series into more of an interactive game. I think they're certainly strongly behind this project, and I know they're putting a lot of weight behind it and some great promotion. I mean, for me as a producer working in this space, I will stick by my belief that when making content for a primetime audience in this demographic, that you will have more success and be able to reach a wider audience, creating more low barrier content that does not require necessarily interactivity. I think for certain age groups, for tweens, that's bang on. That's actually much more for them. That said, we're still creating a digital story. We're still telling a story, and it's called Murdoch Mysteries: Nightmare on Queen Street. And Michelle and actually going back, we're shooting the content Monday, Tuesday. And it tells the story of a murder, and our video content, it's 6 chapters, and the video content is sort of there to introduce it, and I just describe it as playing a modern video game. So what we're doing with the video content is making the cutscene that sort of introduces where we are in the story, sets the tone, sets the mood. As with everything, even though we're sort of supplying this for a game, it has really been my interest, and Michelle, who's writing it, to still do something people wouldn't see on television. So the tone of it, we're going more gothic horror. Murdoch is usually, for the most part, it's days, it's golden browns, sunlight. This is all taking place at night. Thunder and lightning outside. We're sort of even looking at like Hitchcock-style angles and shots, something to really still give it a unique feel. Maybe you could speak a bit. I mean, this has been a new challenge, I know, for you to come in and not just write a story now, but to write a game, essentially. What's been the challenges of that?
Well, I mean, I've never written anything that wasn't a straight narrative before. So having to figure out what the story is, but only actually tell part of it in bits, it's been a big learning process. I mean, thankfully, we've had a lot of people working on this, so it's been a very collaborative effort, and there has been a lot of help. So I think the thing to keep in, or what I've learned really, is that a story can be told in many different mediums, and that's not something that a screenwriter really thinks about. You know, we just write it, and then people act it, and then you watch it. But in this case, it's I write this much, and then you have to go and figure out this part so that when you come back to watch this part, you understand what's happened in between. And making sure that I understand that while I'm writing it.
Yes, I mean we're doing our best, and again, I think it's important that if as the user all you want to do is watch the video story, you should be able to do that. And so it's sort of, to think of it in the way, it's the way we go and do integration points into TV, is that if essentially what the gameplay or the interactivity does is it's advancing the story through being Murdoch. In a sense, you're an investigator as well, so you're putting it together. But we're doing our best, and it certainly is a challenge with all the information we have to get in. But you should be able to go between Chapter 1 and Chapter 2, and if all I've done is watch the video story, we're sort of putting in little mechanisms right off the top to sort of catch you up, even sometimes within a sentence or two, but just to essentially explain, this is what just happened in the gameplay, you can keep going and enjoying this experience.
But of course, if you haven't been doing all of the gameplay in between, when you get to the end and it's your turn to solve the murder, you might not be able to.
Yes.
So that's the kind of fun part of it.
Yes, yeah. And this is going to be, I think, a very interesting, exciting experiment in a way. And again, CBC with a great deal of passion. They've got their team currently building the game, and I know their plans to promote it are going to be strong. So I think this certainly does have the potential to be something quite unique and different. I mean, I think given the opportunity to go back and do another digital series, the one we want to do is what I call Murdoch and Zombies. I look forward for that opportunity. I think that one, the idea being it takes place one night in that station house. The zombie apocalypse is taking place outside. And I'm serious in this by the fact that I think, A, that would help us, again, capture a new audience. And B, I sort of, although it sounds playful and light, to me, what it would allow us to do is, again, push characters into places emotionally and into sort of the character dynamics that the show has never been able to do. Because, I mean, with that type of heightened experience, I think it's the show, but it takes it to a place where the show has never been. We are closing in on time, so I guess my question to you guys, is there anything mind-blowing that we have left off the table at this point? And two, is there any sort of questions or queries that the audience might have? Or do we just all want to go drink beer? Yes. Oh, we have a question.
The concept of the interactivity, I think, is really fascinating, and it opens up like a whole number of directions that you can go. But I'm wondering if you would, because I've done a web series myself, and wanted to find a way to get the audience to participate more. And I'm wondering if you've ever considered a mechanism whereby your viewers could direct the direction of the series. In other words, start to input story ideas that you can then incorporate? Or are you locked into such a production schedule that you have to shoot the material first?
Well, I can speak from SmokeBomb. I mean, you guys could, I think, I'd say, first of all, it depends on who your audience is. And again, sort of asking, is that what our audience wants to do? At SmokeBomb, we are just about to announce we're doing a very exciting project next spring with the CW network, with CTV, which is more targeted at the sort of 16 to 30 male skewing demographic. And that one starts to have mechanisms like that, a level of interactivity and choose your own adventure. For something like Murdoch, practically, I think, for production reasons, I mean, we get, our aim is to do TV quality production values. We get 2 days to do that. And unfortunately, I mean, the cost of just gearing up that crew to do it, to do that 13 times is difficult as well. But that said, I think, yes, the idea of interactivity is great, and I think that's there. I think you just need to be careful in creating experiences, and I'm very much about mainstream audience, that you've gone and you've made a layered experience, and I sort of say it's an upside down triangle, and the widest part here, this has to be accessible to everyone, and I sort of say a single click experience. And if all I do is I go to a destination, I press a button, in this case a play button, and I play content, I have participated. But then I think you can go and you can start to drill down and you can offer a slightly deeper, do I want to go a bit deeper? Yes. And then you go, and at the bottom of this cone, that's where it gets really hardcore. Or the other way I say it is, if I had $10, I would spend $8.50 on the widest part. And that's where I'd sort of go and put my resources and my production value. And I think as you sort of go lower, there are ways you can do deeper, more drilled in experiences, but not sort of putting all your money and your resources down into that. Did you have a...
Well, were you referring to the input coming to the main television series or the digital?
To allow your audience to help shape the direction of the web series.
Right.
By, but the problem there is turnaround.
Yeah, exactly. That's that was my thing, is that turnaround is so tight. You know, it's very unlikely you'd ever be able to actually incorporate it, get it approved. Just getting it approved is a real monstrosity, because you have a lot, you know, it's a lot of voices feed in.
Yeah. Obviously some smaller digitals, you have that freedom, but in TV broadcaster world, it's a whole other bag of tricks. Question.
Hello? I'm curious about, you've spoken how crews take either the flack or the excitement or the not so excitement, and kind of having two teams in regards to both traditional broadcast and then in the digital. What's it been like navigating the world of, here it's UBCP, on your side of the pond, I guess it's ACTRA. How has that been?
ACTRA, WGC, DGC, like the unions have been very supportive. Every time we pick up the phone at SmokeBomb to have one of these conversations, they say we're setting precedent, because we're bringing these new experiences. It is interesting for Murdoch season 4, The Curse of the Lost Pharaohs. We shot that with the full union crew, the crew that worked on the series. For season 5, we hit a bit of a hiccup. NABET, who controls some unions there, it was interesting. They, should I say these? See, this is the thing. I'm a creative guy, but I'm going to say these anyway. I think it's a valuable lesson for everyone. They saw what we were doing as the show, and they saw us as the same production. And we were like, well, we're shooting it after. This is an entirely different budget. We're tier E. We're not, but they saw us as part of the series, and they say the only way our members are working on this project is if you pay them the same amount as the TV series.
Yeah. To that point, though, NABET hasn't worked out a digital.
Well, now they have actually.
Through, as a result,
and that's sort of where precedent. So
because IA had and DGC has, and you know, everybody just has then a straightforward choice. If you want to take that kind of hit from, you know, yesterday I was working on this set making X, and today I'm going to work at X minus 75%.
Correct. It's sort of
like that. Well, that's just a choice.
Yeah, and that's a choice. And so Murdoch 5 was done with a crew from scratch that we built. But then NABET, and I think everyone, it was interesting actually, crew members would go back and sort of say, well, why can't I work on this? Why don't I get that choice?
But the funny part is like, so we were joking in the first year was, you know, we'd pillage all kinds of you know, props and whatnot from Murdoch, and they always looked top drawer. And then we had to, you know, you'd hit a specific SmokeBomb thing, and it looked like somebody went to the dime store and, you know, picked it up, and, you know, had this. It's like, oh, that's a SmokeBomb effect there, and you know what? At the end, nobody noticed, and they would, I think, oftentimes gladly trade off the, you know, the guerrilla, you know, we can do whatever we want here, for the rigid kind of grind it out of the series, right? You know, so we were able to get, you know, the whole camera department came, you know, full on IA crew, happy to come out and do it. And so they saw the potential in it, and they saw the potential to shoot something different, you know, and I think people that excited people, and they went along because, you know, that's what everybody strives for. Everybody wants to do the most exciting thing possible, and you know, after you've been 90 days in a row shooting the same show, it's like suddenly it's like, we're going to do what? We're going to blow up what? I'm there, you know.
So needless to say, yeah, I think everyone's been supportive. I think I go back and reference certainly the Bell Fund, the CMF, the series production team, not just for their crews, but certainly just even being access to their writers, being able to get in there for meetings and all those things. So without all those individuals, there's no way we're doing this stuff in 2 days and 4. We're not doing this stuff at all. Any other questions? Okie dokie then. We're 5. We're bang on the dot. So again, BC Film and Media, we'd like to thank them for being sponsors of this panel. I hope that was somewhat informative for all of you, and we will see you CBC Murdoch season 6. Boom, and then zombies.